Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third session of the Summer 2024 Career Series. And we have had a great start. We've had some really great presenters, great participation from our scholars during the earlier sessions this week. And so we hope to be able to continue that trend and that vibe. A couple of housekeeping things before we dive into the presentation itself. We will be continuing our career series. Today's session will be on how to start a business. And we will be taking a short break over the weekend, but we'll be back next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, with the rest of our entrepreneurship and summer career series sessions. So make sure that you are staying tuned and participating in all of the sessions that you can as possible. Next slide. A couple of housekeeping things. My name is Chris Aviles. I am the Senior Program Manager for Partner College and Scholar Supports here at TheDream.Us. And we want to know who else is in the room. So please introduce yourselves. In the chat, put in your name, your major, your college name. If you have a LinkedIn profile, put in the link in there as well so that folks can click and connect with you. We want to hear from all of you and see who's in the room and start our networking process already. As you do that, please note that we will have the chat available and our speaker will be prompting you with some questions so that you can fill in the responses to those questions in the chat as well. And our colleagues, Sadana and Nicole, who are also sort of managing all the background stuff, will be including different types of links for resources and supports that you can all get to it in the chat. So make sure that you're looking through that and staying up to date with all the resources that are being shared. In addition to the chat, we do have a Q&A component. It's a separate box. We will have a Q&A at the end of this session for any questions that our scholars have of the speaker or of the process of starting your own business. So please use that component to separate your questions from what is being asked in the chat. It'll make it so much easier for us to be able to address your questions at the end of the sessions if we're able to keep that separate and be able to just run through those questions directly at the end of the session. So please make sure that you are keeping that in mind when you're asking your questions. We have a great presenter today, so I'm sure you're going to have plenty of questions for him, but make sure that you're putting them in the Q&A portion of this presentation. Next slide. So, why Summer Career Series, right? So we put this together because we understand that there is a huge value in our scholars to understand and be informed of their career options. A huge other component of this is that anyone, regardless of their immigration status, can be an entrepreneur. So we want to make sure that you all are aware that this is an option that is available to you and what are the steps in being able to create your own business and going into entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not just starting your own business, but includes other career opportunities as independent contracting, freelancing, of course, starting your own business, and even participating in a worker cooperative. To date, there are over 823,000 undocumented entrepreneurs in the US. You can find tons of more information on this on our career success page. A link will be provided to you in the chat from myself or one of my colleagues shortly throughout the session. So please make sure that you click on that and bookmark that tab for future reference. Next slide. We have more information on how to apply for an I-10. What is an I-10? How do you go about applying for it? This was put together by my amazing colleague, Nicole Wesley, who actually leads all of our career programming here at TheDream.Us. And it is a guide to really walking you through the process. It is amazing. This is also on our website. We will also include the link in the chat. So make sure that you are clicking on that, bookmarking that, and have that as a resource for yourself. Next slide. Finally, all of the information that is going to be shared today is for educational purposes only and should not be considered legal, business, or tax advice. For personal advice in these areas, we always want to recommend that you connect with a professional in your local state that will be able to give you individualized advice to your particular situation. But we will be covering sort of some general ideas and concept for you to better understand what is the process to start your own business. Now, with all this being said, I want to be able to introduce our speaker who is amazing. Jose Diaz is a tax professional within the multi-state practice of one of our big four global accounting firms. Jose was formerly a dreamer and helped many dreamer entrepreneurs start their own businesses prior to DACA. Jose also led a project with law schools that helped process over 3,000 DACA applications in Miami and Washington, D.C. Jose holds a bachelor's degree in economics/finance and a master's degree in taxation. So please, everyone, join me in welcoming Jose Diaz. And Jose, I will pass the mic on to you.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that warm introduction. How's everybody doing on the Zoom? How many people we have on? I think, whoa, like 97 I see, right?
Yeah.
Cool, cool. All right, everybody. As we go through this presentation, I really want to hear from you because this presentation is mainly for you. So I'll ask a few questions along the way. Just put your answers in the chat and then Chris will help us out and the rest of the team will help us out sort through the top answers as examples as we go through the process. So the main topic of this presentation, as obvious by the title, is how to start your business. But that has many connotations. Is this about just registering a business? Is this like actually coming up with a business plan? What is it that we need to focus on and what's relevant when we talk about starting a business? There's a few items that, well, here's an overview of what we're going to cover. It's important to have a proof of concept when getting started. So it's not just coming up with a business idea, but a business idea that generates revenue enough to cover the expenses of the business, but also to generate income for you to be able to sustain yourself or your family. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty of actually setting up a business, some of the paperwork where some people may not be familiar with, and then some tips along the way to get started to launching your business. As Chris said, I'm formerly a dreamer. I was very involved early on with the dreamer movement back in the early or the mid 2000s with the Dream Act and a whole bunch of other stuff, and especially during the DACA implementation after DACA was announced back in 2012. But along the way, I've helped a few dreamers in different states and guiding them and helping them in starting their own business. And I mainly did that because through my own experience of having to figure out, since I didn't have a work permit, how to self-sustain myself by this avenue of entrepreneurship and having my own business. And I found a lot of dreamers along the way, and I'm happy that a lot of them were very successful in creating something that they can sustain themselves with. So I'm familiar with some of the processes in different states, and the process is very similar across different states. And as far as the steps that we're going to go over. And then after I did that for a little bit, I went back to school and to pursue my accounting career, finished my bachelor's in finance economics and a master's degree. And I'm finally working at one of the big four accounting firms. Um, and my hopes is that whatever I learned there is to bring back that knowledge back to the community to be able to help them advance and implement in their businesses. So the most important thing before you even invest a penny into starting a business is having a clear business idea that brings value, that what you're offering, it be services, it be a product that you're selling or something that you're making to manufacture and sell. And I say manufacture, but it could be something. I've seen folks create shirts, shirt designs and stuff like that. So we don't have to get too complex as far as the business idea, but it has to be something that brings value to the person you're trying to target. Most of the time, what I've seen with like businesses that dreamers start and all that is that they're very, very good at something. It'd be photography, it'd be design, it'd be a service that they offer, like a translation service, or implementing some of the things that they learned through their career, through college. A lot of folks take advantage of that and turn that into a career, given the career paths for some dreamers with or without DACA may be limited, but that doesn't mean that you have to limit yourself. You just that is what the main core of entrepreneurship is, being able to figure something out with little resources or very little doors opportunity open to you. Going back to our proof of concept, if you have that unique skill or that unique idea that brings value, the next thing is that you need to be very, very good at it. You need to be the best or at least competent. And what I mean by that is once you start putting yourself out there, and you people like hire you to do something, you need to follow through. And the quality of what you are putting out there, the service or the product has to be a good quality. And because that is building up your reputation little by little, and at the very beginning, the most important thing is word of mouth and your reputation. That is going to start building your business, and that is the core of your business. So you at the very beginning, kind of you have to implement the scientific method of testing out different things that work and don't work to be able to get an idea down to a proof of concept where it works before you start investing any money into it. Because the worst thing and the main reason why most businesses fail at the beginning is that folks have an idea and have resources that either that be money from friends and family that they've been able to gather, or some savings that they've been able to put together to put into an idea because they love the idea of entrepreneurship and being their own boss and not having to deal with any bureaucracies at work or the business that they're in, and be develop their own idea. And that idea failed because it's not poorly thought out and poorly executed. So with that said, the most immediate thing or the hint that you're gonna get that this idea is a good idea is once you interact with people, does it bring value to them? Do they value your time, your effort that you're putting into it? That they'll be able to pay you for this, what you're offering. Um, then later down the line, we'll do that. We have to do the math of, well, how much money can this generate? Does it cover expenses of my business? Does it cover my own cost of living and so forth? So once you have that, then we get into the process of starting a business. There's different things you need to consider. There's legal implications, there's tax implications. And as Chris had in the beginning of the slide of the presentation, I'm not an attorney. And then also any legal advice, any legal or tax advice is just for pure educational purposes. You always need to consult an attorney or an accountant to be able to determine your specific situation. Um, like everybody's own business has a unique structure that they need to follow depending on their circumstances of like how they're doing things. So there's not a cookie cutter way of being able to implement some of this knowledge. This knowledge is important for you to be informed. So when you talk with an attorney or you talk with a tax professional, to be able to have an educated conversation with them and know what they're talking about. Um, but with that said, you need to decide on a legal structure. And then that legal structure has implications for taxes and how you're taxed. Once you have that figured out, the next thing is you need to figure out on your state website, or if your state doesn't have a website where you have to paper file your business registration, you need to gather all that information, excuse me, to be able to file and register your business. That once you have a proof of concept and you have that business idea and you've decided the structure, the most important thing is to register that business and or name brand, um, to make sure that you start protecting. This is how you start protecting your investment that you're making in your business and in yourself. Then the most important thing is to set up your financial systems from the beginning. This will help you um, generate revenue streams or help you collect money from your customers that you're going to create value for. So that needs to be seamless, with less friction. The easier you make it for folks to pay you, the quicker you'll be able to grow. Then after that, within the financial planning, you need to come up and have an accounting system. That could be as easy as a spreadsheet on an Excel file. And if you do a quick search in Google, you'll find that out there, that there's simple templates. I think even like when you do the template search within Excel, it'll give you a generic template of how to keep track of that. If not, QuickBooks has different packages, very, very inexpensive to a little bit more advanced, depending on what you need to keep track of. But the most important thing is you need to keep track of how much money is coming in and how much money is coming out. And typically what you see small business owners do is they just use their checking account balance as a barometer of how much money they have. And that really doesn't tell you the full story of how profitable you really are. Um, and to learn accounting and all that stuff, people get intimidated, accrual versus cash and all that stuff. There's tons and tons of videos that you can watch on YouTube, but for the most part, any accounting software takes care of that in the back end, such like QuickBooks and so forth. I'm gonna pause there. Any questions have come in so far, Chris, on what we have covered so far? Because I'm gonna get into some of the examples and like showing people around in a little bit.
We have one question, but it's a little bit more general, so I think we can save it for the end.
Got it. All right, I'll keep moving along. So legal structures. Typically, you'll hear limited liability company, C Corp, and S Corp. For the most part, everybody starting their own business would fall in the category of a limited liability company. And the concept of a limited liability company is very, very simple. It's actually a hybrid between what a C Corp is and what individual sole proprietor is. And what that means is that typically in a limited liability company, your money and your investment that you put into it is what's subject to any lawsuits or anybody going after your assets. So if for whatever reason, as a simple example, you have a restaurant and somebody slips and falls, right? They can only go after the assets of the business, what is in the business. They cannot go after you personally, generally, for the most part. And that is protection that you also have in a C Corp. So that's the component that is a hybrid. The other component of a limited liability company is that for the most part, your tax at your individual tax rate. So the limited liability company itself does not pay an income tax. That gets passed on to you when you pay your personal taxes, whatever revenue or whatever profits that company generates under a limited liability company, the taxes are determined at the tax rate. That is what they call a pass-through entity. The tax revenues flow through the company to your personal income tax. And those are the two main features of a limited liability company. A C Corp is a traditional corporation that has that protection that they can only go after the assets that are yours, that are within the company and not you personally. But the corporation itself pays a tax. And then whatever profits are left over that are paid out as a common word that's used as a dividend, that gets paid out to you personally, and then you have to pay another tax at your personal tax rate when that you receive that dividend, and you report that on your personal income tax. So C Corp is double taxation, and you have limited liability protection. Um, and that's why limited liability company is better, because you get the benefits of both worlds. The next thing is an S corp. An S corp has some features of a corporation. Um, it pays taxes at the individual level, meaning that any revenue that passes through to um, from the S corp to the individual pays the tax, and the corporation doesn't pay the tax. And it has the same limited liability protection, but it does have some restrictions. The number of investors that it has, it could only be owned by U.S. People with like U.S. citizens and stuff like that. And a bunch of other restrictions that don't come to mind. But an S corp is like a corporation that's starting up, that is gearing and getting bigger and growing to become a C corp. Typically, why you would have an S corp is if you want to have a company and you want to have the ability to be able to bring in investors, because you have an idea which takes capital and takes people investing in it. And the only way you can give them equity in the company is by giving them shares. And that's why you have an S corp, to be able. It's like a hybrid between almost an adult company, like with stocks, but also at the same time like a mom and pop type of company. That's why you would have an S corp. C corp is your regular. Most companies that are big out there are a C corp, and have investors and so forth. So for the most part, people would fall into the limited liability company category. Any questions have popped up, Chris, before I move on?
Not about this specifically, so we can keep going.
Got it. So after you have that established, actually, let me actually take a step back. Let me switch screens here. Here we go. Once you determine, and let me know if you see the internet browser, Chris. That's what
Yes,
we're seeing right now. Okay. Once we've determined the legal structure that you're gonna have set up, it's off to the races. And like, this is the funnest and easiest part of all, is registering your business, because this is where also you get to get creative, and you get to like start searching for a name, coming up with an idea for some names for your business. And there you have to think about, when you're coming up with a name, you have to think about, is the website available? Are there any other social media handles, or are they available? But the most important thing before you go out and you register a website, or you register any of the social media handles out there, is you need to do a search. Now, this is from the state of Florida, has a website, makes it very, very easy to do a search for a company to see if it's already established. because generally if the company's already registered, that name already exists, you can't use it because it's owned by someone. So after you've determined where you're gonna be and all that, look up a name, and then go through the steps of registering the business. On the state of Florida, it's very easy. Um, let's say here, a limited liability company, and I'll just take you so far. So there's all here important information on what that means and so forth. And then you click on filing, and this is similar to different states, right? So here, start a new filing, and then you start filling out the information. This is for the state of Florida. Each state is different, but for the most part, you put all the information. And then once all that's filled out, you confirm it on the next screen, and you submit it, and then you'll get an email from the state 2 or 3 days later saying that your business is registered, or if there's a name conflict with another company, they'll let you know, and then you just have to go back and make a change, right? So after you've gotten the confirmation that you're registered, the next important thing is you need to get your EIN number, right? Employer identification number. This number has different important uses. So it's the main tax number is a social security number for the business, right? It helps when you file your taxes. This is the number you'll put on your tax form. You also need this when you're opening up a bank account. You also need this if you're giving out when you're working, if you're doing services for other folks, they'll ask you for a 1099. You need to put the EIN number there with the company information on there. And this as well is very easy. You can go to the IRS website. Let me see if I go one back, and it's always there on the main page here. Apply for employer identification number. I'll go through a series of questions when you click on here, um, which all this is very important. But it like you pick the type of business, a limited liability company. I'm not gonna go too far, but it gives you a description of what it is, more detail on what an EIN is. The Dream.Us website has a guide and a page set up to cover all the importance of EIN and what the benefits and the responsibilities that you have. I'm not going to go too deep into that because we can spend a while talking about that. So register business, register EIN number. That EIN number is going to be very important to also set up your bank account. Once you have that set up, and then actually one thing, once you complete this online process with the IRS, you can actually receive right there instantaneously that EIN number from the IRS. So it's very important that you wait for this step first to file and register your company before you apply for the EIN, because this is instantaneously, so you don't have to wait too long. For the most part, this process is very easy, and this is the fun part. You get to come up with a name for your company. You get to do the basic paperwork of registering the company and getting that email in that email in your message in your inbox saying that your company is registered. But then after that, you have to start coming up with different things. Go back to the presentation real quick. You have to start thinking about your marketing strategy. So we have an idea, we have a proof of concept in a way of like you've kind of tested this out with asking friends and family and seeing if this idea is viable. Now you have to let people know. You have to market. You have to come up with a plan. It's not just like going out there and start advertising it. I mean, you can do that, but you need to give it a little bit of thought of coming up with a strategy. And some of the basic stuff is, what is your customer profile? Who is your target audience that you're going to target for your business? Back in the day when I didn't have, I was like a dreamer. I didn't have like a work authorization. I came up with the business, and the business was doing events and parties for children, but with a twist of doing it with video games. So back then it was a PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Nintendo Wii, and we bring that out to um, children's birthday parties. Um, we also leverage some of our college connections. So through student life, we connected with the folks responsible for bringing events and activities onto the campus, and we presented ourselves as another activity that they can provide the students within their campus. And we set up Rock Band, Guitar Hero. We set up like competitions with Halo and Gears of War and stuff like that. That was very popular back in the day. Um, and we created a profile of our different types of audiences. So for birthday parties is children, mainly like the Nintendo Wii and all that, but the actual target is the parents. And it's a combination of both. Um, like I mentioned, student life, activities director. The other, we also did corporate events, so we also did schools, and then we did like big family separate celebrations like bar mitzvahs and stuff like that. And we, for the most part, we're very successful. So our profile is all those different categories of folks, and we thought that out. After we had that, um, we also had to market to those groups differently. We had different packages for birthday parties at different price points. We had different packages for schools, which is a bigger package to be able to service a larger amount of students, and also for schools, and then for and I'm talking about like elementary schools, and then also for bar mitzvahs and stuff like that. Um, then after that was in place, then the next step is launching your business, and it's kind of like celebration of coming into the world. um you have to reach out and you need to let your friends and family and everybody that wants to support you and give you an opportunity. um you kind of have to like create like ambassadors for your brand and for your business to be able to get them going and get the word out. There's a term usually out there like earn media, and basically that is um word of mouth and a little bit of creating content for social media to be able to get people's engagement going without actually having to pay for advertising on some of the major social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram and all that. And for the most part, at the very beginning, you wanna save as most cash as possible when doing that. So the next step is creating social media presence with all the major social media platforms out there. And once you've gone in 2 or 3 months into that, you wanna analyze a little bit what your traction has been with this audience, because we were constantly changing our packages. We're constantly changing our advertising. For the most part, you want to have a core branding as far as like your color scheme shouldn't change that much. Your lettering shouldn't change that much. Um, but like the how you word things might change. Your price point, like as I mentioned, might change. But nowadays, there is something else that is available out there that is a very, very helpful tool. You have okay, you have websites like Canva that make designing things very, very easy. Um, but the most important, powerful tool you have is ChatGPT. Um, Before our presentation, I asked ChatGPT to come up with a business plan, develop a business plan for a photography business in Miami. And what I would say is don't leverage yourself completely and use ChatGPT to do the work for you, but it's a very, very good starting point to be able to do this. Um, you have to then customize this to your specific situation, your specific area, and what you have to want to offer, type of thing. But this is a very good starting point to be able to make, and actually will prompt you to think about a few other things. The next thing I asked it is to, some tips for advertising, which might help you think creatively about other things that you could be doing. Um, Let me see here. What else? Any questions come in, Chris?
Yeah, we have a slew of questions right now, Jose, but I think we can still save them for the end so that we can do them all together.
Got it. Let me go back to the presentation real quick. So I think we're on that. We're right on the money with time. Um, so what I've said so far, is basically at the very beginning, before you launch, do your homework, have something that is viable and it's going to produce money for the business and for yourself before you invest a penny, before you register a website, before you register a business. um, and your audience that could give you free feedback instantly is friends and family, but also venture out a little bit and ask folks on the street, ask folks in classmates in the classroom that you cross paths with that may not know you, type of thing. Because at the end of the day, when you start your business, you're actually gonna have to force yourself to be able to reach out to folks that you don't know, and you're basically telling them, trust me with your hard-earned money, um, and trust me that I can provide something that you're gonna like and you're gonna appreciate, you're gonna find value in. So start getting comfortable with that. And there's a saying that goes that you need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And for some folks, it's easier than others. But the point of the story is that you need to reach out because you're going to be doing a lot of reaching out, and you're going to start wearing a lot of different hats within your business. And that's one of the things that I really appreciated when was doing my own thing. I had to come up with the ideas of how the setup of the video game systems were going to be, what games were going to be offered, had to do my own like designs. I had a friend that was a graphic designer that designed our first like flyers and stuff like that, and he handed over the Photoshop file. And little by little, by playing around with that file and by looking on YouTube and so forth, I learned how to change those design and come up with other designs. Nowadays, it's a little bit more easier when you have Canva and all that. Um, you you have to, the most important thing also is like your finances. You're the one that need to be on top of those finances. um and you learn a lot, and like keeping tracking, setting up goals of different marks of how many packages you have to sell and all that, or have to produce as you go along to keep things going. And one of the things I would tell you is, with that initial momentum that you get when you launch your business, keep that going, keep the excitement up for folks, because once the momentum goes away, it's hard to get that momentum back. um, then some of the stuff that we talked about of getting set up, it's important to do all the steps necessary
Mhm.
at the very beginning. If you can mute yourself real quick. The most important thing in the beginning is to register everything, because some folks will get a little bit, not lazy, but complacent on not registering like everything. I'll do that later type of thing. Do everything from the beginning, because you're protecting your time and you're protecting your investment from the very beginning. You don't want to have issues where you don't have a paperwork submitted, then you have to, in some cases, file a sales tax report with the state where you have to submit sales tax if you're selling a product and so forth. And you don't want to get bogged down with administrative stuff. Do everything, set up everything from the beginning, so you don't spend time um like as an administrator to your business and actually spend time in the exciting part of your business and what you can do, like the skill or the value that you're providing. You spend most of your time there and not in like managing all the other stuff. Marketing. Um, marketing, you're always learning the from your customer. When we would go out and do these events, I was always analyzing and seeing what the children would like, what the parents appreciated when we did these events and so forth, to bring value and to be able to understand them a little bit better. You kind of, when you're doing marketing, you kind of become a little bit of a psychologist and what are some of the things that make people tick and move and understand what you're offering and what your idea is and be able to market to them because what you're doing with marketing is you're communicating with your customer. So having a solid plan that evolves marketing when you're doing marketing and advertising that is constantly changing and evolving because um, things in like other businesses out there that are doing similar stuff also have other things that they have to offer, and your client and customer are experiencing that. Launching your business. This is where the spark that ignites the business to get things going, and it's important to have a good launch. When we did the launch, we send press releases to local newspapers to try to get someone to write a story about it. We set up a launch party with all these video games set up for friends and family and all that, and like for the most part you want to pack an event so it can have high energy and like people are excited about your idea and your business and then the other part of launching your business and also ties in with marketing is that we would sometimes at the very beginning do a lot of free events for folks that did not understand our concept or not were not completely bought in. And for you might do that at the very beginning as well. And you have to think about it as I'm doing this for free, but I'm also using this as an advertising opportunity to expose what we're doing to folks that we haven't reached because you have to think of everybody in their circle of friends and family that they have. Each person has that circle, and you want to have reach and exposure to as many people as possible. And sometimes doing things for free will give you that free advertising. So just think of it as free advertising that you're being able to do with that. And typically, when you're evaluating how your progress and what you're doing, usually a 2 to 3 months time period is accurate to give enough time to put a plan into motion, um, execute that plan, and seeing the results and seeing what the feedback is as you're going along. You discover different things. I know that when I was doing my own business, well, that I mentioned with video games, we would learn things all the time and constantly be changing. So but we made it a point to constantly evaluate, is this working? Like, yes, people like it and all that, but can we make this better, this aspect of like how we start off our events, or um, if we offer something else. Um, we also, with that evaluation process, we analyze that we could be partnering with other businesses as well. And we ended up partnering with one of the game stores, like GameStops, to do a launch for one of their games, for I think for actually a few other games, like when the Halos came out and like the Rock Band Beetle came out, we actually did an event for them. That came as part of the process of self-evaluating and what other business partners can we engage into being able to do more and get more exposure. Um, let me see. That I think that is a good recap so far of like what we've been talking about. I think um we're gonna go into questions now, but here's my contact information if you want to reach out. Um, I'm always willing and open to helping people and talking to them on some of their ideas that they're brainstorming. So just reach out. So let me know. Chris, let me know what we have. We have about what, 15 minutes or so to go over questions.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes to go through some questions. I do have a number of questions here. If everyone can just bear with me, there's some reoccurring themes. So I'm gonna try to like jump around a little bit just so that we can keep everything a little bit more categorized. So we have a lot of questions on LLCs, Jose.
Yeah.
Uh, so the first one is I have my EIN. Is my next step getting an LLC or registering my business to the state?
Think you put the carriage before the horse because in order to get an EIN, you need to have a registered business because when you apply for that EIN, you put a business name. Now, if you're telling me that you registered as what they call a sole proprietorship, that basically your name, your own person is the business, and you just happen to register an EIN for it, um, the EIN doesn't really cost, there doesn't have a fee to register. What I would do is get a clean EIN, register the business first, get the name, and then apply for an EIN specifically for that name of that business. And that's how I would approach that. But that's a good question. There's folks out there that function as sole proprietorship, but sole proprietorship doesn't have protections. If they go after you, your personal assets, your car, if you have a house or whatever, I mean, not everybody has a house like that, but they can go after it. Just think all your personal stuff they can go after. But yeah, go on, Chris.
Great. I don't understand this question, but hopefully you do. What are the different ways that an LLC can be found to be attributed to the owner?
Repeat that. One of the differences between LLC and how it could be attributed to the owner.
What are the different ways that an LLC can be attributed to the owner?
When you register, what I mean, I think what that question is hinting at is um if how the LLC and the is connected to the owner. When you register the LLC, you have to list in Florida, they call them managing members. And those are basically the owners of the LLC that own the LLC. So when you do the registration, you list all the folks that are responsible for the LLC, which are the owners. So that's how effectively they're connected. And your whoever registers the EIN is effectively connected with that limited liability because part of the process is that you have to put an ITIN or a social security number, so the IRS can know that that EIN for that LLC is connected to a specific person.
Thank you. The next question is, do LLCs provide any way of obtaining retirement funds?
Retirement funds, as far as like retirement plans for employees and stuff. Yes, typically when you have a business and there's a retirement benefits package that some different companies that are in the business of offering retirement packages to different businesses, this will be no different. So you can have a retirement benefits package that you buy from a sales rep that for a retirement company, and it's just tied to the business. Now, the question is not can you do that or not? The question is you have the funding necessary to be able to actually invest into a retirement benefits package through how much money your business generates to be able to make it worthwhile and actually have a retirement benefit when you retire and all that. That world is very vast and there's different things you can do with that and different business companies that offer packages. But yeah, generally, yes, you can do that. The same thing with health insurance, which ties to that, which I think that does provide value. And actually, when you do, as a simple example, through QuickBooks, when you do payroll through QuickBooks, QuickBooks has the ability to be able to get a health plan for all your employees through their portal and their system, which is also which is a good benefit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jose.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
I'm gonna skip to someone else. What is the budget for an LLC?
The direct answer to that, the budget is the needs of the business. But as far as registering a business and all that, that states usually make that very inexpensive to do because they want people to start businesses. Because if you start a business, you start paying income taxes in certain states, you start paying sales tax in certain states, and especially sales tax. And Florida is a sales tax state, and they want people to start businesses. So in Florida, to register an LLC is like about $135 to do the registration. And then every year to renew, that's another thing. You need to keep your company current with the state. So the state charges you an annual report fee to keep your business active within the state. So it's 135 to register, and every year is 150 to keep it up to date. But as far as like capital to start your business, at the very, very minimum, you should have like 3 to 4 months of runway to be able to pay all your expenses that you're thinking of having, to support your advertising need, to support your employees' needs, to support keeping a website up and running. Now the other stuff, so there's two categories to that. What are the basic stuff you need to keep the business open? And what are some of the extra stuff to like have an advertising budget, or a budget to invest in more equipment or more product to be able to make if you're making something like shirts and stuff like that. So it depends. It depends on the business. But you usually want to have a 3 to 4 months because that gives you enough time to test an idea out, and once you have it more developed, to test it out and to pivot if you need to pivot. But usually you should be pivoting if it's like you're 2 months in and you don't see much traction. You need to start pivoting because your runway is starting to run out. What else we got?
Um, if you have an ITIN number, do you automatically get an EIN or do you have to apply in addition?
The EIN is not automatic. So you apply for it, and when you apply for it, you already either have a social security number or an ITIN, but you need to have something that tells the IRS who's responsible for this business in the terms of tax compliance. Who's going to be responsible to submit a tax form every year reporting any income taxes, or any income that this business is generating. So short answer, you need to have a social security number or an ITIN before you apply for an EIN.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jose.
You got it.
Do you need a social security number to apply for an LLC?
Um, that is tricky. For the most part, is no, you don't. Some states may make it a little bit restrictive, and it's not a matter of making it restrictive. It's also because some folks that are foreigners that are bringing money and investing in real estate and setting up a company and all that are not unveiling themselves. Um, just take an example of what happened with the Panama Papers investigation, where you had foreign governments and foreign officials parking their money in the US, setting up an LLC that owns different real estate properties, and they just want people to identify themselves and so forth. Um, Short answer is not typically you'll see that. Some states make it optional that you need to report a social, but not typically. But there might be some states requiring a social.
Awesome. Switching gears just a little bit, do you have any websites you recommend for when you want to create a website?
Um, Squarespace makes it very easy to design a website. I would start there. There's templates, and then also within that platform to be able to design and change things. I like it a lot. I've used it for a few times with some businesses I've done along over the years. Um, on websites, and then some of the stuff I mentioned, Canva to create any social media post designs and stuff like that. Even like nowadays, ChatGPT can generate some designs, and then you can use that as a starting point for some ideas and stuff like that. But website, I think Squarespace does a really good job, and they have a lot of stock, not only photos but videos that you can use. And sometimes you can make it like a theme video playing in the background of your website and all that, which is really cool. What do we have?
Generally, how do you organize yourself to pay for taxes? What is the percentage of income for sales taxes?
Okay, so I think the safest thing to do for LLC is to set aside about 35%. And there's different factors and different things. But in terms of income taxes that you have to pay federally and your federal income tax, set aside about 35% every time you earn some money after paying your expenses in the business. That will give you comfort to be able to have money aside to confront the tax bill that may be at the end of the year. But the most important thing to do to be ready is keep monthly records of how much money you make as far as revenue and your expenses. You don't want to be at the end of the year putting all that together and trying to figure out what is your net profit, because you're going to pay taxes on your net profit. If it's a corporation, it's 21%, but again, you get taxed at the individual level. I say 35% because that's more or less on the higher end of the tax bracket for any individuals. But you can certainly pay much less if you document well all your expenses and so forth um, along the way.
Thanks, Jose. I think this is going to be our last question for the session. And you kind of went over this a little bit, but just to recap, our last question is, what is the benefit of having an LLC under an S Corp or C Corp?
The benefit of an LLC, it gives you more flexibility. You're not constrained because the corporation functions in the world of stocks, and you have to do transfer stock ownership when you want to bring people in or kick people out. But the other thing I would say is with a corporation, you're obligated to have officers, and officers are technically employees of the company, meaning you have to withhold payroll taxes for those employees. You don't have that scenario under an LLC. An LLC, you're paying yourself as owners later down the line as income passes through the LLC and then later into your personal income taxes. You cut out a huge headache of like having to report. Like in the state of Florida, if you have a corporation, you're obligated to withhold payroll taxes and remit those to the state, because that is what funds the unemployment benefits within the different states. So simplicity. An LLC, you get very, very simple paperwork, returns, and you actually save time and money because you don't have to hire someone or pay a software provider to be able to manage most of these things. So simplicity is a key word here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jose. So I want to just, again, thank you so much for the presentation. There was a wealth of information here. I know our scholars really appreciate being able to have this guidance and this support and this resource. So thank you again so much for being willing and joining us today and being able to present today. Sorry for the folks we weren't able to get through all of the questions, but hopefully we got through some of them and most of them. This session has been recorded and will be posted on our YouTube page within the next few days. So if you need to get a refresher, you can always go back to our YouTube page and you'll have the video there for you to be able to access. Thank you all. And please, please remember our summer career series will continue next week. So make sure that you are joining us for those sessions as well. Thank you all and have a good night.
Take care, everybody.